What does it mean to break categoricalness on us? What do you mean?
Well, when we get...
So that we stop being categorical?
You know, we're more like a space where certain processes occur. When a thought comes to us, on the one hand, it develops us. On the other hand, it transforms and changes that thought. Remember we said, when we think about something, it affects us and we affect it. There's a mutual exchange of energies. Because of this, children who come to us change us very strongly. Of course, we can shut down, not feel it, not react at all, but they'll still influence us. We just won't bring it into feedback. You know how some people have a bunch of kids and never actually feel love for them? Why? They were closed, busy running the program of categorical thoughts and beliefs. In other words, any belief is false because it doesn't allow itself to have an open code so that every person who interacts with that belief can give it the possibility of transformation, which means development.
So open code is the absence of that categoricalness.
Well, you know, there's the notion of idealization or one-rightness. Those are closed codes. That's why I'm against words like harmony, ideal, unambiguous, or categorical. We can be those things, but keep the code open. Then that idealization grows new, more interesting parameters and constantly passes through stages of evolution. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the focus of attention, we generate a lot of phrases, thoughts, beliefs, which means when they interacted with us, we weren't observers. We were 100% involved in the process. And in that moment, we generate nothing but beliefs. There are so many of them that they need to get out of the inner collapse, the clamping inside their limitations. So coming here, they create, to put it mildly, troubles for us and a huge number of conflicts. Conflicts are trying to multiply themselves inside our inner state. And I want to say there are short beliefs living here, and there are very hard beliefs that already generate certain egregores under the names, for example, of religions. And the principle of these religions is an attempt to increase their energy. And energy is consciousness and knowledge, while remaining in stability. You see, it's stand there, run here. That contradicts the laws of conservation and flow of energy. In that case, self-destruction starts. They accumulate energy, that is categoricalness, and then explode themselves. But they can do it through suppressing other egregores or other categorical formations that were created. Thus, their path of development goes through interaction. For example, in Christianity there were and are 300 plus denominations, and at times they fought each other. On the one hand, they worship the same person, Jesus Christ, yet because their rituals, categoricalness, approaches or principles had no open code, they destroyed one another through interaction. When we destroy something, we flow into it. And in the next life, if we were Orthodox and fought the Catholics, then in the next life we're born Catholic. Because in any conflict, we exchange energies in any contact, especially when there is aggression.
So we need to understand that we will eventually incarnate as everyone.
If we interacted with it in the plus or in the minus, it doesn't matter.
Do we have the task to incarnate literally as every such social type and subtype?
We would prefer not to do that.
But under the rules of a dual world?
Because we live in certain circumstances, our focus of attention has a set of parameters that don't align with the surrounding world, and we also have to account for a huge number of closed programs in the form of beliefs. Most likely, we won't manage to remain nice and fluffy in every incarnation. As a rule, we flow from one to another. A vivid example, if in some life we were born a saint, then we must necessarily pass the opposite lesson of a tyrant.
Or a sinner?
Or a usurper, or someone who dismisses human values.
Accordingly, a nun, then a fallen woman, yes?
Yes.
And we'll keep going through all that whenever we fall into some extreme.
If we don't create an open code. Because the principle there is this: we turn on categoricalness from the position of the knowledge we possess. Unfortunately, our focus of attention, called our soul, becomes false. It gets overgrown with beliefs, closed programs with no possibility of development. Roughly speaking, someone decided the best car is a Volkswagen or a Toyota Camry, period. And across a lifetime, they pass only that lesson. They need nothing else. Or they build a house and decide 28 generations of their descendants must live in it. This is a categorical program that, unfortunately, creates the strongest tension here in this world. That tension is passed to the souls who form the picture of the world, of our life on planet Earth, and the picture of the world vents steam as earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, pandemics, or wars, in order to reboot those who have merged too tightly into closed programs with no access code and no development, adding the changes necessary because they were linear. Linear here is figurative. We have, as it were, a brewing explosion. We've accumulated a colossal amount of unambiguous beliefs. In large numbers, they were born here as imperfect souls, thought forms that didn't unify properly into what we would call a soul. Hence today we have an enormous number of inert game characters.
Non-player.
Well, what's the term? Remember the film Free Guy? He wasn't a real character, not a come-from-outside one.
He's an NPC, a non-player character, background.
Yes.
A player character is someone you can take as an avatar, connect to, and play through the game. And there are non-player characters who just...
Because they gain experience by observing the player characters. Yes, great example. Know this for yourselves. Only what exists in that world can occur here. Nothing can happen here that doesn't exist there. Roughly speaking, if you wrote a program, it will render on the computer. If the program wasn't written, it won't manifest here in the physical world. What we see as games, 3D virtualities, or just playing on a screen, all that comes from the world that manages us. It uploads its codes and rules so it's easier for us and for them to manage. Having reached a dead end, they had to create the digital world to offload this entire base of categoricalness into another reality that connects to ours. Because here there's overload, or to put it this way, overheating.
So you load that base into another dimension?
Yes, yes.
And how's that going now?
Honestly, not great. It's skewed again. People, instead of living this life, started overloading the digital life. It's real there too, on par with a dream. And a dream is a more real reality than our physical existence. Just imagine, there we live the lives of other avatars, other characters, other actions.
We resonate there with certain energies and qualities and bring them back here.
Very strongly. And the interesting part is, look, books, films
are what change us.
Music, poetry, artworks, these affect us and change our soul. Now imagine the virtual world influences us many, many times more than films, books, music, and more, multiplied by 1,000,000. We're living a parallel life there and bringing it here. But when we live too much there and stop living here in the needed measure, imbalance begins and our energy gets pulled over there. And since our thought forms are more material than we are physically, denser and more significant than our physics, when we dock them with the physical, we begin to feel. And remember what we said. If you want something, visualization is second. First is the feeling you want to experience, because that's the penetration of a certain system of energy interactions that connects with us and then reproduces it in our virtual, illusory physical world. A thought form is always denser than we are here in the physical. We need to thin it into feeling. Though to us it seems like concentrating density. When the quantity of thoughts grows, if not realized, it becomes emotion. If realized, it becomes feeling, which then unpacks in the physical world.
So an unrealized mass of thoughts turns into emotions. Emotions, you said that's the past.
Yes.
So that's how ancestral programs work through us?
Yes, yes, yes. Let's say it this way. Ancestral programs work both from the future and from the past. From the past, we see them as emotions. From the future, we see them as feelings. When we are in sensations, in states, we dock them and create a kind of space of life where the quantity and quality become many times greater and higher. The pixels shrink, like HD, Full HD, 4K, 8K, 12K. It's all just flicker to our perception. Remember old TVs with the electron tube? What did it do?
A tube?
It laid down many layers, 500 something.
Lines?
Right, lines. Our perception was of a single image, but it was drawing a number of lines, updating them, and we got continuous perception. With HD, Full HD, then further upgrades, it's simply the number of lines increasing. In other words, we're densifying the quality of information we receive. But for that, speaking figuratively now, we need larger energy channels to pass that volume of information through. Next, when we accept that information, our cells must be able to receive it. Otherwise, overheating may occur. What is overheating? When energy cannot become self-aware, and then it discharges outward. What is emotion? When we cannot use energy for action.
It loops, gets blocked, a closed code.
A closed code. That's what we've smoothly arrived at. On one side, we and the ancestral programs from the future want to load in as much as possible, because that's our cellular level. Our past is our physics. Our future is our life in the form of interest, desires, values, and joy from what's happening. We also call it pleasure. Ecstasy is more feminine. That's a separate deep topic. Why here it's pleasure and there it's ecstasy? So it turns out, on one side, the past nourishes our physics. On the other, the future gives that physics life and wants to create conditions for this physics to move into that future. But at the docking point, the question is, can we timely let go of one past and accept another past? The one that a moment ago was the future.
The near future.
Yes, and this change of the picture, you know how frames run, and the previous frame decides to linger, layering starts. Like on a computer, when you do something and a whole staircase appears, one frame stays, the next ones show up. What you get is not movement, but a sequence of figures, frame by frame.
Frame by frame.
And that's our problem. Why we get sick or age, we remain frame by frame inside ourselves. Accumulation happens, what we call toxins, slag software. Chains tear because the past remains. Remember we said be in the here and now, as if there's no past and no future. Why do I say let go of the past? There is no past. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means we remove the amount of slag and malicious programs which aren't malicious. They've just lingered longer than necessary. Frames are stacking. The future wants a very fast change of frames, not like a tube CRT, but like digital 18K, brand new tech, which means per unit of time we must process a huge amount of information, and that's all on the physics. The physics must do it. Every cell must do it on time. So on one side, we get a conflict created by physics. Any categoricalness is a manifestation of the physical world. There is no categoricalness, there is harmony. What happens then? Not even harmony, mutual permeation, emptiness, transparency, like God. Yes, God is an idea, not visible, because it's transparent. Everything naturally permeates everything and nothing joins. Therefore, everything exists simultaneously and nothing interferes with anything. We see and feel physics only because we're in conflict between the future and the past, like between a hammer and anvil. They create this movement between themselves, and we see and feel this physics and perceive it as reality.